next to me one of the coolest amps I've ever played through. This is the Cutthroat Audio Fullerton. It's based off of one of Fender's last Tweed amps, the late 50s and 1960 5G9 Tweed Tremolux. And while this is a faithful recreation of the amp on which it's based, it holds a few secrets, which in my opinion makes it much more versatile and much more usable than the original Fender Tremolux. In a lot of regards, the late 1950s and the 1960 Tremoluxes were known for being one-trick ponies in the sense that they were very clean amplifiers, which was kind of uncharacteristic. A lot of the Tweeds at the time were known for breaking up super early and kind of having that overdriven sound. So this amp does that authentic Tremolux sound very well. But what makes this great is that Ron over at Cutthroat Audio included a series of modifications to this that kind of put it into a category far above what you'd expect from just your standard Tremolux. To begin with, the normal channel on these amps, which was kind of redundant after having the bright channel, is now voiced as a JMP50. And the unique thing about this amp is all three of these controls are actually tied to push-pull pots. The first one on the panel here internally jumpers the two channels so that you don't have to run a cable like you would normally. The second push-pull pot gives you the ability to change the preamp tube between a 12AX7 and a 12AY7. And lastly, the pot that is tied to our tone control can also be pulled, and when that's pulled out, it engages a second gain stage within the preamp, which can really take this amp from like what you'd expect from a standard Tremolux sound and kind of push it into that classic Tweed Deluxe 5E3 sound. In addition, this amp has a master volume which would not have been found on the original circuits at the time, but that's a great addition because it allows you to play this at bedroom levels and kind of dial in tones at different levels that normally you would be kind of unable to achieve. All these well thought out modifications allow this amp to be played as an accurate recreation of the original Tremolux, but also it allows you to get into that early Marshall Plexi sound as well as like what you'd expect from a classic Tweed like Fender Deluxe sound. So very versatile. I will include a link down below and then also in the video to the website for this amp, and it has everything spelled out in far greater detail than I can give it credit or do justice for here. So be sure to check that out. But that being said, let's plug this thing in and see what this amp can do kind of in those different capacities. That's neck. Here's bridge. And finally, let's put it all the way up to 12. Bridge. Something worth mentioning on these Tweed circuit amps is how interactive the volume controls are. So in this case, if you're not jumpered, if you're only into one of the two specific channels, and you adjust the volume control on the channel that you're not in, it will have quite a big impact on the tone of what's coming out of the amp. And something that I've noticed with this is with the inclusion of the master volume switch, or not switch, but the master volume control, the more that master volume is rolled down, the less you notice a difference. But if you crank that master volume switch all the way up, it becomes very apparent, which is common in these Tweed circuits, just how much that non-engaged volume control actually does shape the tone. So after having this amp for the weekend, it's pretty impressive all the different things it can do. Obviously, it's true on the one channel to the kind of the vintage specs for what you'd want out of a Fender Tremolux, kind of from that late 50s, 1960 era, but it also does the kind of more classic Tweed sound super well with that added gain stage, and then obviously with the second channel being the JMP 50, you can kind of get into that Marshall, Plexi, that early Marshall territory as well. So overall, very versatile. It can do a lot of things and it does them super well. It sounds killer. Hopefully the audio here kind of portrays that, how good it sounds in the room here. Definitely check out Ron's website over at Cutthroat Audio. Like I said, I'll have a link to that, but this isn't the only amp he makes. He also does a ton of awesome brown face era replicas with kind of the same list of added features, with some of the push-pull pots and different things that just make these amps a little bit more usable in the modern world. Huge thanks to Ron for letting me take this thing for the weekend and kind of put it through its paces. Make sure you go follow him on Instagram and Facebook and check out his website, and that way you can kind of keep up with what he's doing. He's doing some killer things with these builds. But yeah, hopefully with this video you kind of saw what this thing's capable of. And yeah, that's all I got for now. I appreciate you hanging out this long. And yeah, take care. We will see you all in the next video.